percentage quiz, and some
percentage
of them
quiz. Yeah.
seem not right.
Why not right?
Well, there was like a
I have questions,
0% change on like new students or something.
Did
like
it
that.
round to 0%? Oh, you mean the one in that picture said
Yeah,
0% change?
Thank you. Yeah, for
But you got
continuing
13,
students,
14,
but
yeah.
it's impossible for it to be 0% change.
But it's not impossible for it to round to 0.
Right.
Well, yeah, but the other roundings that you were doing in here would
It
how
didn't
you
make
were rounding.
sense.
Hang on. Let's look.
Thank you.
So if we're looking at, so I'm just gonna look. I just took your quiz away from me, Amber. I
Here,
apologize.
I wrote it on.
Oh, that's
here.
okay. I need the slide.
Okay.
So if I'm looking at the slide that was given to me, which is on the page here, the picture, 0% change from
13 to 14.
13 to 14 in continuing students. So it went from 4421 to 3859, and that which is a drop of 562. Which meant that's a 0% change. I see the point.
Yeah.
Somebody, I didn't even check that math. That's just wrong.
Negative 13? That's what
Yeah.
I got.
Yeah.
And then there was another one towards the bottom.
That's funny. I didn't even notice that.
Like a 3.
Total credit head count?
Yeah, it's total credit head
It's
count.
a negative 3 and it's negative 10.
Negative 10.
Yeah.
If you don't mind not shooting the messenger, this wasn't my slide.
Well,
I'm just realizing it
I
now that you're
know.
making me look at it. I'm like, that isn't right.
Yeah, I was just confused because I was trying to check like my numbers.
Your numbers, which I'm assuming were correct because you
Yeah.
did it correctly because you used the percent error idea.
Well, and I don't want to sound arrogant on my quiz, but I made a note on there.
I
That,
did too.
Well, I'll pass it on to she who made this slide
okay.
Yes, do.
and let her know that she's
Because they were
checked her
like
math.
drastically wrong.
You 0%. When I said rounding, I'm like, but it's 500 over 44.
Right.
Yeah.
That is not 0.
You didn't use the same math that you did.
Well, there's different kinds of math I've noticed in the world. There's correct and there's everything else. No, that's good. That's good, and I did not notice that. The point, now let's not get too worried about that, because it sounds like you guys are doing the math correctly, which makes me stoked. The point of this whole quiz, and I tried to capture it in that conversation I had with my colleague, was they get so fixated on this big number, which might not even be correct. But as soon as you look at it a secondary way, you realize that you might be getting all worked up about a fluctuation. I had a student in 244 just yesterday, actually, who mentioned he was reading the bulletin at work, and one of his coworkers said, "Oh my God, look, wildfires were off the chart this year." And apparently, if you look at the change from last year's either acres or numbers of wildfires, I don't remember what number it was, either acres burned or total number of individual wildfires, there was a huge uptick from last year to this year in that. I didn't realize that. And people were getting all, "Oh my God, we gotta start doing this and this and this and this." And he's like, just go back one more year.
Right.
And it was actually right where it is this year. So it's possible last year was actually just a low year and this year popped back up again. And they said his coworker just kind of like glazed over when he said that. But it's exactly the same thing I'm telling you guys here in this quiz, right? Maybe if you look at a bigger picture with a more broad net, you might see a pattern or a lack of something to talk about. I blame Ted Turner for most of this, honestly, because he gave us CNN 24-hour news back in like 1980, whatever it was. And everybody's like, "This is a great idea." I'm like, that's the worst possible idea I can think of. You need 1 hour of news a night would be fine, because you could distill it down to what is the most important and what you need to know about. You don't need to know every single thing. "Oh my God! Barack Obama breathed again." You don't need to know this stuff. You don't need to know what's going on every single moment of every single day. Because we become alarmist about things like change in enrollment. Guess what's been happening to enrollment ever since these slides came? It's been going back up. Which, of course, we know it's going to go back up, right? As a matter of fact, it's up so high now, it's surprising people. Yet 6 months ago, "Oh, the sky's falling. The sky's falling, we're gonna lose money." Now, granted, you don't want to bank on students. It's that whole bird in the hand, two in the bush thing. You don't want to bank on students you're not gonna have. But you also don't want to start cutting programs based on the supposition it's gonna stay that way. And that's where this comes in. I apologize for the math mistakes. I will. You did make a note of it, though?
Yeah.
Jeff, I appreciate that, because I'll make a note on the quiz about the slide being wrong. Which is good. You see, I'll say like, for points, find the math errors in the slide. That's good. I wasn't even looking at that, because I mean, you guys hyper-focus, which is fantastic. I over-focus. Like I'm looking at, okay, that's not worth getting worried about. That, this, and that. Yeah. And also, did you feel a little bit weird about the "in your opinion" question? Did that make you feel a little bit weird? Like, in your opinion, which one is the most impressive change?
Yeah.
Realize you can't be wrong.
Right, I went both ways.
Right.
I did the positive side and the negative side and
Cool.
wrote it out for you.
You
So,
just realize
yeah.
you can't be wrong. It's in your opinion. Your
Right.
opinion cannot be marked off as long as you support your opinion with some numbers. I mean, that's the other thing too, that hopefully this class will start you down the world of learning is, it's not black and white. right? X does not equal 2. Well, sometimes it doesn't equal 0. But you know, X doesn't equal 2 all the time. There is a measure of gray in almost everything mathematical in the world. And you can get, I mean, how many of you guys have built a door or a wall, you built making a shed or something like that, and you cut the wood to what you think is the exact right width, and it's not quite right, so you kind of bend it in and screw it in, and it pulls the wood. There's always that kind of gray when you're analyzing data in the world. There has to be. There has to be. Absolutes are where you start getting in trouble. So that was that quiz. Okay, apologize for the math mistakes. What was the other one?
Grade.
2.
Your commute.
Oh, the commute grade. Gotcha. So, I got 1 or 2 emails about the percent error. Hopefully, now this is where those extra resources pages pop in too. I asked that question on percent error of the 2 methods. And it was, what did the percent error come up being pretty close to? No, not the angle, but the percent error was very close to what?
0.
I mean, there almost was no percent error, right? There almost wasn't. Why was there almost no percent error? What is percent error?
I got negative 98, so I don't even know how I got it.
0.98? Negative 98.
Negative 98%.
Okay, negative 98%. Okay, let's come back to that. Let's come back
I
to
don't even
that.
know how I got it.
What is error? Let's go back to that. What is error?
It's a mistake.
It's a mistake, right? So suppose you're measuring something like this room. Suppose you're measuring something like this room, and this room is actually, let's make up a number, it's 30 feet long. Let's make up a number, 30 feet long. You measure it, however, not to be 30, but to be 29 feet. What's the error you made? 1 foot. Good. What's the percent error you made? What percent were you off? That's what percent error is. It's the percent that you're off. Not the raw number that you're off, but the percent that you're off. So you, go ahead, Josh.
Wouldn't that be about 1%?
Roughly, I would call it 3%, because 1 over 30 is about 3%-ish, somewhere in that. You can do the, but that's where the extra resources page, it breaks down percent error. It tells you, now there's a link on the quiz that took you to a percent error calculator,
That's
right?
what I did.
Which is totally fine. I wanted you to do that. But in case you were wondering what percent error actually was, that's where that extra resources bit comes in. It takes you right to there. I know a bunch of people already knew what it was from previous math classes, and some of you might not have known what it was, which is why I make that extra resources page. You can launch right to that and look in. And there's a couple examples in there that actually walk you through what percent error is. So, that's all. And the angle was pretty small, right? The angle on the overall commute was a couple degrees, maybe not even, yeah, a couple degrees. Now, what was the point of the percent error question?
Like, does it really matter whether you do it either way?
Christy, thank you. Does it matter if you compute grade the right or wrong way?
Depends on the grade.
It depends on how big the grade is. When the grade is pretty small, it doesn't matter. When the grade is pretty small, like my commute grade, overall is pretty small. Now, if you ever do that commute with me, and you should sometimes, it's a fun ride. It's a 6-mile fun ride. It goes through Sawyer Park, it's up the side of Aubrey. There are sections that are ludicrously steep, well above whatever you guys calculated on average. I mean, there are sections of it that are 17, 18, 20%. I'm grunting by the time I get to the top of it. But there are also sections where I go downhill, and there are sections where it's flat. But if you just look at the overall change of elevation and how long it took me to get there, it ends up being, what was the grade-ish for either one of them? 2%. Was it 2%? There it was, 2%, right? 2%. Roughly a 2% grade. That's nothing, right? That's nothing. I mean, that's less than college way. It's way less than college, like a third of college way. It's very small. So, overall, not much grade. Sections of it, this is like me and my wife talking about Mackenzie River Trail. My God, trail is so steep. On average, it's downhill. But there's that one section. That's the idea of my commute. My commute is not that steep, except for those couple sections where it really is. The last part of my commute comes downhill, a very steep dirt track above the dorms. That's because my overall elevation, I actually climb higher, but I end up lower. That's the number you guys use to calculate. So, I'll have videos for these posted. Hopefully it's sometime over the next 3 days. I'm going to have video solutions that'll be linked in. So the Blackboard links are now gone. You can't submit the Blackboard quizzes anymore. But the quizzes will sit on the schedule page forever. And when I say forever, I mean the rest of the term. Forever for us. And then what I'll start doing is adding in little video solutions to those quizzes. So if you're curious how to crunch the numbers, I'll put those up there for you too. So, cool? All right. So, I want to start today. Any other questions? Those were two. I got 3 quiz ideas for you for next week. I got another grade quiz idea for you. In case this grade quiz you wanted to kind of leave alone. I got another quiz idea for you as well we can get into as well. I had 2 other ideas too. Similar triangles, which we're going to do today. And something else. I wrote them all down on my blackboard this morning. Anyway, you'll have 3 quizzes hopefully by this afternoon. I'll have them written up by this afternoon for you. Cool.